Well, the last video, Stapleton is for Racists Volume 2, Why Should I Care?, led to some interesting responses, including some sadly ignorant comments that may have been deleted by the time y'all are watching this. Don't worry, I've posted an example on the next slide. So, it seems we've got to tack on a little bit more explanation. And fam, this might take a smidge over 60 seconds this time, but bear with me. First, we've got to get a couple of words and definitions clear so that we're all on the same page. First, people of color are not automatically minorities. In many neighborhoods across the country, various ethnic groups are in fact the vast majority. Using the term minority is pejorative propaganda that bigoted folks like to use to make themselves feel better, because it allows them to diminish the people or peoples that they hate. This is called marginalizing, a tool of dominant groups, and why white folks striving to be allies are asked to use the term marginalized communities if one is going to pick a blanket term. Side note, blanket names for groups are sort of a bad idea anyway, and should be reserved for academic discussion, if at all. Why not simply name the people to whom you're referring however they choose? That is, acknowledge their unique dignity and humanity. Although systemic racism and oppression have left many people of color in poverty, being a POC does not mean that one is automatically poor, just as being white does not automatically make a person wealthy. And remember, poverty is not a marker of worth, regardless of what many white folks will have you believe. Rather, money is a tool of oppression, and a very effective one, especially as in the case of Stapleton in Denver, where money is being concentrated for the specific purpose of harming people and communities of color. In a nutshell, racism is not an economic issue. That statement is white supremacist propaganda. Let me say it again for those in the back. Racism is not an economic issue. That is white supremacist propaganda. Denying people basic civil rights, actively working to remove them from their homes, and threatening and intimidating people are human rights issues. Don't let anyone ever convince you otherwise. So, now that we've got some basic definitions down, back to the main point. As a regular old white person, why should you care about this? Here we go. First and foremost, unless you are a member of the particular elite in question, generally white, middle class or wealthier, and male, you are ultimately not likely to be looked on well. Just being white does not make you safe from people whose goal is to consolidate power and eliminate those they determine to be undesirable. You may not be their target now, but you may be soon. Consider the poem First They Came by Pastor Martin Niemöller. Racism is not a liberal issue. Racism is something that predates any of our political parties. Politics, like economics, are a tool of oppression, but again, racism and bigotry are human rights issues that rise above any affiliation. Calling it a liberal or democratic issue is another form of propaganda used by those who wish to diminish the issue and continue to oppress already marginalized people and communities. There is no such thing as reverse racism. There is no such thing as reverse racism. Again, there is no such thing as reverse racism. If you don't believe me, watch the skit by Amir Rahman that I've linked in the description. I'll be here when you get back. Also, as a white person, and especially if you're also cisgender and male, if you are not actively resisting racism and bigotry, you are contributing to them. Turning a blind eye to the suffering of others is functionally approving it. If you identify as Christian, you may wish to refer to your Bible on this one. And finally, just because you're white does not mean that you or someone you dearly love is not a member of another marginalized community. This video was entirely written, produced, and directed by me, Cameron Grant. Please like and subscribe to keep up with more information.